no need to introduce the person who I'm sitting next to here. Of course, one of the most famous athletes, really, of all time, certainly in this country. Joe Montana, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So the first question I was going to have for you apparently ties into this Guinness sponsorship here, because what I was going to ask you is, particularly this week, I know you've been around San Francisco, you've been at a few different events, and you've been with some old teammates thinking about your career, talking about old moments. And what I was going to say is, as you know, late at night when you're thinking back and you're trying to go to sleep, all the different moments that go through your head, you know, the catch, the drive, the Super Bowl blowout, like, is there one in particular, one moment that really makes you smile? And apparently that's tied into this Guinness partnership to some degree.
I think actually, if you look, there's a couple, and one that I think people don't think much about because they don't understand what happened. We were playing Philly in Philly, and the first series, everybody said, nah, Philly, that's when they had Reggie White and those guys. They're too physical for you. You guys are finesse. You can't handle it. And first series, I throw a long touchdown to Jerry Rice, and I'm going, oh, wow, this might be easier than I thought, because they play a lot of man-to-man. And from that point on, I never picked myself up off the ground more than that. So we eventually come back, and I can't remember, 3 or 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I don't remember. But the last one was, we were ahead in the game, finally, and there's minutes to go, and all we need to do is we run a little route by our halfback where it's a read route. He comes out of the backfield and he can go in, out, sit, do whatever he wants to do. And he sits down and he's wide open for the first down. And I throw a go route, and I can see George Seifert goes, like, what are you doing? And it's a touchdown to Jerry. And I come over to the sideline and he goes, you're lucky that was a touchdown. I know. But those are things that you don't think about, or most people don't think about. And then the touchdown pass to Jerry Rice to win the Super Bowl is, you can't. Doesn't get any better than that.
Is that so? There's this is about moments to some degree, right? I mean, this is a Guinness beer with Joe Montana. What, like, is there like a particular moment that's tied to this can?
No, I think that there's a little bit more tied to it than that. We have been working with Guinness for a number of years now, and probably one of the greatest companies to work for. They're always so thoughtful in the things that they do, and are always, when you go into someplace, they always are giving back to those communities. But this was something we talked about, and we worked on for a while together. And one day they just asked about, is there a memory about beer? And I said, well, yeah, we were playing in Germany, and it was 900 degrees and 900% humidity. So right after practice, we would all head to this one little bar that had this ice cold wheat beer. And so we worked on this lager together to try to emulate that. And this is a crisp and clear, and one of those beers you drink when it's ice cold and big. A little different than the one sitting behind there. Love them both, but this is a limited time that it's going to be out. And the nice part is that for every 4-pack out there, they give back $5 to the SF Marin Food Bank here in the city. So, like I said, they're always doing something good. We're all actually, after this, we're headed over to the food bank itself to help pack food, and things that they do for the community is just makes, the products are great, but it makes you feel good inside every time we go somewhere.
It's funny that story is about playing in Germany, because we're now seeing this enormous international push from the NFL. Is that something that you enjoy, playing internationally? Do you think players in general like, because it is a little bit disruptive to their week-to-week schedule?
We never played a season game. We played preseason, so it was a little different atmosphere or feeling as a team when you play. I would imagine it would be tough to know that this game counts, as opposed to who cares if we
we'll hit the bar and drink some wheat beer afterward.
We'll play for a series or two and then we'll be done.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's great. I think one of the things that their push has been is try to get the NFL known more around the world, and it's always about the almighty dollar with them. So I'm sure it's about selling merchandise,
increasing revenues, increasing team valuations. Well, we're seeing, we'll get into that stuff in a little bit. One thing that I wanted to talk about also from a business perspective is, I know you have talked a lot about how Bill Walsh sort of instilled culture into the 49ers, and very much, again, sort of similar. You've taken that message along with your VC investing to some degree. There was a dynamic with the 49ers, I think, from an organizational standpoint that I want to ask you about, which is the idea of having you and Steve Young on the team at the same time, 4 years, competing for the same spot where the two of you sort of push each other, with Bill's thinking that you'd get the best out of each other with competition. That is not a dynamic we see anymore. There are not two Hall of Fame level quarterbacks on the same team 4 years. And I'm wondering, because there are obviously some drawbacks to that too, do you think something about our culture has changed that prevents that from happening? Or do you think that there's sort of an inherent flaw where if you have two guys like that who are kind of going after each other's throats or the job, that maybe it can backfire?
Well, I think now it becomes it's a financial thing. I mean, if you look at the quarterback playing in this game in Seattle, I mean, come on, this kid performed everywhere he was.
Sam Darnold.
And, my hat's off to him for being able to do it wherever he went. Luckily, he's caught on to a team that I think they'll keep, but it was the financial things that moved him from team to team. I mean, the guy won 28-2 for the two teams he played before Seattle. And so back then there was a salary cap, but it was not even close to what this was. And as far as I was concerned, there was not a competition. So the only deal was make sure that he stays behind me. And that was all I had to do. Didn't make me prepare any different. I prepared the same way. I was the starting quarterback, and I prepared myself for that every week. And I don't know how you push somebody, because sometimes you can push people over the edge when you put them in those situations. There was already enough pressure for either one of us in that position that was unnecessary. But I mean, it turned out well for in the end.
Well. I mean,
not for me, but
I was going to say, how irked were you at the team when they made the decision to trade?
We had just won 2 Super Bowls in a row. When I left the game, we were still winning, and we were headed to 3 in a row. And I had one of the best statistical years of my career, and he wouldn't even let me compete for a job. And I said, well, this is crazy. I know I can play. I know I'm better than he is. And I said, just let me compete. And he said, no. So I said, well, I'm not going to sit here on the bench. That's not how I pictured finishing my career. So.
Did that have a lingering tension with you with the 49ers organization, or was it more just sort of a George Seifert issue?
No, I can understand what he was thinking. And the only thing is typically when you get hurt, you get your job back when you come back. Especially if you won. I would thought after you win 2 Super Bowls and you're in the championship game again for the 3rd year in a row, and you would think, I didn't even ask for it back because I understood what he was trying to do, and he thought this is succession, right?
Exactly.
But I wasn't ready for succession.
Right. I mean, this is a corporate story you see all the time. Just look at Disney. You can see how many times Bob Iger was like, let me stick around for a little while longer. Yeah.
But, unfortunately, we screwed up in Kansas City and lost a game that lost home field advantage for us and ended up going to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And
well, I think the 49ers breathed a sigh of relief probably when that happened, right? That was the last thing they could have.
Yeah, no, we should have gone to the Super Bowl that year. Yeah. I joke with Jim Kelly all the time about it because we'd been friends for a long time. And I said after the game, I go, Jim, you should just let us go because you guys are going to go there and lose again.
Yeah, well, you were right. That's right. That did happen.
He goes, but we had a great team, a great organization in Kansas City, and I loved my time there. I look back, I got a concussion. I started looking at my kids going, I want to at least be able to physically move around and do things with them. And
Yeah.
so made sort of like a Bill Walsh decision, got out of there too soon.
See, that's funny, yeah. Do you have a relationship with Brock Purdy today?
No, I don't, I'm not down there very often. I mean, I go down for one game a year, like I was saying, and that's about it. I had started a business and where that takes up most of my time. Yeah, I love watching him. I think he's a great quarterback, and the things he's been able to do, especially this past season, with smoke and mirrors with all the guys that they got hurt. They made it a lot further than I thought. But so my hat's off to them and to him for fighting through all the things that were there.
There's, I mean, of course, the sort of the debate. I don't even know if it's a debate or if this irks you anymore. Certainly, when I was the first, when I was growing up, it was very clear Joe Montana, greatest quarterback of all time. Then I think even you kind of came to the conclusion with Tom Brady, like he just played so long and won so many Super Bowls that it's like, well, you kind of have to say he's the greatest of all time. Does that bug you a little bit?
I look back on my career, and like you go all the way, high school, college, it doesn't matter. I've never had a record. I've never been the top person. It was great to be there or being thought about in that context, but makes you want to go back and play again.
Yeah, right.
So that you can't get.
How was that? I mean,
I wouldn't have 27.
Tell me about the transition away from football when you made the decision to retire. How difficult was that?
Oh, it was. The first couple of years was hard. You don't even want to watch. And luckily for me, Jennifer and our kids they were do people. They'd rather be doing something than watching something. And so we were always out and about, and it made the transition a little bit easier. But for the most part, I think come on, I played football since I was 8. So basically 30 plus years. And then all of a sudden, cold turkey, you can't play anymore.
Right.
So, I think that's probably the biggest part. Like there's no after 40 league. There's no go out and play softball or whatever, go pick up baseball games or whatever you might have. You just don't. It doesn't happen for football.
Well, there are two routes that you often see retired quarterbacks go. You very briefly dabbled in the broadcasting.
Yeah, I wasn't a lot about that.
Yeah, you never sort of wanted to do that?
No, because coming from the other side as a player, you see so many times people were making judgments on a player or on what happened on the field, and they have no idea.
Meaning they don't know the play call, they don't know the situation.
And so for you, it's hard. It would be hard to judge our receivers and our quarterbacks that played with under Bill, because our receivers had so many adjustments they could make on a hook. A hook doesn't always have to be a hook. A hook went to a post, went to an out, went to a cross. I mean, and it just depended on the defense. And so someone sitting up in the box, you have no idea what all those are. And who misread who and that. And I just didn't like making those kind of judgments on players.
Like when you listen to modern broadcasting, is that thought still going back in your mind? Like all of this stuff sort of nonsense? Like none of you really know what you're talking about?
No, but I think a couple of the guys do an extremely good job. And I haven't seen much of Tom, but I know Troy and
Tony Romo?
Tony Romo, yeah. Thank you. And I think that when you look at how they analyze a game is a little bit different. And they'll even get into that. Well, I'm not sure they're here. And when I was there, they just wanted you to be definitive, argumentative, and they didn't care whether you were right or wrong. And I didn't feel very good about that.
When you see Tom Brady's $400 million salary, do you reconsider maybe? You say,
I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask him for a loan the other day.
Right, yeah. Uh-huh. Well, look, so the other route that you could have gone, which you didn't do, is either management or coaching, or did that ever seem like something you wanted to do?
I always say I have 4 kids. I don't need 57 more.
Uh-huh.
So I just, I didn't go that route, yeah. So it's too hard to go from, I don't know how guys do it, going from playing on the field to watching. so closely and being a part of it, I couldn't see that.
Too difficult.
Yeah.
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 It's funny because the person we were talking about before, Steve Young, made the exact same decision as you. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember him telling me, like, you have to run away. Like, you don't walk, run, right? You made the same call, and you both then went into sort of similar professions. Steve does private equity, you do venture capital. And so talk to me about that transition. Was that something that you thought immediately, oh, I'm going to be good at this?
Absolutely not. So what happened originally was I was at home and I had just retired, I don't know, 2 years or so. And Ronnie Lott and Harris Barton knocked on my door and said, hey, we got
Together?
an idea. Yeah.
Okay.
We got an idea. We want to run by you. And so they said, look, we've lived here all our lives, or our playing careers, and we've made friends that all these guys, our neighbors, kids, they coach our kids, go to the same schools, all run these top tier venture funds. So we want to leverage our friendship into access into Sequoia and Kleiner, Excel, and all the top tier funds at the time. And I said, I really wasn't looking for a job yet, but sounds like fun. And then we started growing that business, and it went in. Then we moved.
So just let me stop you there. Yeah. So when you say leverage our access into those funds, what does that mean for you?
So basically we would go to the guys that were running those and say, hey, look, this is what we want to do. We would like a small access into your fund. We want to try it. We tried to do it for athletes to help them preserve some capital that they couldn't touch, so that you wouldn't see as many horror stories about people going broke. But there were too many layers in between the player, us and the player, right? There was the player understood, but then there's this guy and that guy and family. And
so let us into your funds, and in return, we will bring in capital from this athlete pool.
Yeah,
okay.
And help us help these guys.
Okay.
And so we started there, and then those guys eventually helped us grow into leverage buyout, hedge, and real estate funds. And so before the first bubble, somebody made a crazy offer on our house in Atherton, and we sold the house and moved up into the wine country, and I started driving back and forth. And I said, look, it's 2 hour minimum, guys, and sometimes it's 4. And I don't want to leave you guys hanging, and my kids are starting to play sports. I want to go back and forth. I don't want to keep leaving. And I said, so I'm just going to step back. So I stepped away. And, an old friend where the kids went to school early on was a guy named Ron Conway, who started a fund called SB Angel.
Yep. And famous.
Basically, yeah. And he kind of took myself and my older son and my wife originally going with him and following their group around at this big incubator called Y Combinator.
Yep.
And so that's kind of where we started. And then next thing he says, why don't you start a fund? And I go, okay. And he goes, I'll invest, I'll be on your board, I'll introduce you to LPs. And so we followed them around. And this is
Liquid 2.
This is what Liquid 2 came about, how it came about.
Yeah.
And he basically just helped us understand what they do, what they look for, and did everything that he said. And still to this day is on our board and invest.
Okay, so I want specifics here as best as you can give me. What are you looking for in these? Because you invest in a variety of different companies. So I hear all the leadership, culture, but that's too vague for me. What specifically are you looking for?
People. It becomes a people game that early, because a lot of times we invest before there's product, right? And
what is it about the people?
You have to try to learn how to read people and their ability to, okay, if this isn't going right, can they make the changes that's necessary? But also, this guy already has all that ability, and he has the know where for all and what is inside of him. Sometimes you even go into family relationships. So, you try to find out as much as you can about the person individually that you can. Sometimes the deals are just move too fast, and you got to make a quick decision.
So if you're going into a family relationship, what are you looking for? Stability? Or?
Yeah, just a lot of it's relationship between the two co-founders. Usually there's 2, sometimes 3. Very rarely you see a single founder these days, but for the most part, you're looking at those relationships, because like one of my partners always says that most startups, their relationships last longer than most marriages. So these days, so you're looking at that breaks up. When they break up, the company breaks up.
How are you investing in AI?
I don't know what you're talking about. No, we started investing in AI back in 2016.
Yeah, that was
16 or 18.
that was the right time to start investing in AI. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been doing it for a while. That's the other thing I learned from Bill Walsh. I have a great team. How to assemble a team. These guys laugh at me because when we first started, I made them work without pay for, I say 3 months, they say 6 months.
Okay.
And Jennifer and I warehoused 26 deals.
Were you doing that purposefully as like a test for them, or
Well, just we were trying to see if
short
we
on cash?
No, we were just trying to see if we worked well together. And it's the same type of thing. I'm looking for a partner and the diversity of everybody's background gives us the ability. Now there's 5 partners, and gives us the ability to invest agnostically around different.
And so what lessons about team building did you take from Bill Walsh? Are you looking for complementary skill sets, or is it something different than that?
No, it's kind of a combination of things where it was always, don't interrupt the locker room. Now, we don't have a locker room, but if what's happening inside the office is not right and there's disruptions between there, that messes with the whole ability to invest in the right type of people. And so what I ended up doing in the end is making everybody equal. So there's no arguing over it. Like, I was trying to figure out, how do I figure out what's more important? Bringing in a company, bringing in capital, dealing with portfolio companies. How do you break that down? It's almost impossible. And so we don't fight over things. Oh, hey, this one's better for Mike. Give it to Mike. I may be introduced to one of the other partners, but hey, this isn't right for me, you take it. And we brought on another partner to help us expand into investing later into our winners in our funds. And it's been a huge plus for
there's an obvious parallel between sort of building a team at these companies and building a football team. And it strikes me, again, you are sort of like, many people always bring this up, like you were not a first round draft pick. Again, we talked about Brock Purdy earlier, last pick in the draft. There's clearly, no one has cracked the code exactly on analytics for football.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you think that perhaps, because there's like, we are in an analytics boom times 10,
Yeah.
Have we overcomplicated things maybe, where there's just too much out there that maybe we've gone over the deep end and we're not looking at the right things anymore?
I mean, I think it goes, you can go even further back. Yeah, today, because there's way too many ways to find out information. And some of the things you hear them say, okay, seriously, does that have anything to do with the game or what that's going on? But it's really difficult to figure. The NFL is still, they have the draft, right? But who's the fastest, who's the strongest, who's the biggest. I mean, if you would have put, what is it, 185, 220, whatever they put on your chest at bench, I might still be lying there. So, right?
Clearly, that's not a relevant metric to be looking at.
The only person I might have been able to beat in a race was probably Brady.
And exactly right. You saw it again with Tom Brady. Same deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It's really hard to. I can show you as many busts in the first round and as many successes in the last rounds. And so it's hard to figure out who can make that transition. The same thing from high school to college. You see the same things happen. And I don't know what it is about the personalities that make that difference, but I don't know how the NFL keeps going. I think a lot of that you see on TV and in the combines, they make money off us. So, I mean, I'm sure there are certain things that you look at. I mean, speed's something you can't teach, so.
For sure.
But.
Last question for you. We talked a little bit about AI. Just curious if you're using AI in your life these days.
A little bit, yeah. When I have issues, I lean on I jump on the chat.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of answers and a lot of things that I look for, maybe in support of something I wanted to do.
Give me an example.
I just got an answer on what is all expected on a chief operating officer. You know, what that basically looks like and what the responsibilities are, and the differed from what I had, and also had additions to what I had assumed. And so, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to.
I mean, it's a tool available for you. You might as well use it.
Yep.
All right, Joe. Cheers. Thank you for doing this.
Sancha. Thank you.